Is this the future of Lego? Recently, Lego has given us a new train, which is really exciting for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, they don't give us trains that often, and second of all, this set actually has two trains inside it. The one that you pay for and you build, and this one right down here. This is a 3D printed piece, which is the first time Lego has ever produced a 3D printed piece for a retail set. So this is pretty exciting, but it does spark a lot of debate. So let's talk about why the piece is made, what its intended purpose is, and if it's actually going to replace ABS plastic. Now, to start with the unboxing experience of the piece itself, it did not come in standard bags like normal pieces do. Instead, it came in this little cardboard box that had some holiday theming printing on it, and it also came with this ribbon printing as well. And you can open the box and the train is just loosely in there, so you can just dump it out. And then in order to build the train itself and have all of the details, you can go ahead and add a couple of extra Lego pieces. And these are in the form of pieces that have bars on them or mini pegs. And so you can see there is a bar in the front of the boiler. There is a mini peg hole at the top of the smokestack, and there are two bars on the back, one of which is in the cab, and the other one is at the back, which looks like a connection point to other pieces. So I'm actually wondering if they're going to continue this down the line, or if this bar in the back is just intended for minifigures to hold it, or other things like that. Overall, once you do actually build the train up, it does look pretty cute, and all of the blue that you see here is 3D printed as one thing, so it all gets 3D printed in one shot, which is really interesting. I'm surprised that they're able to do this on a commercial level. And it rolls pretty smoothly. As you can see, I just take my finger along the back of it and kind of push it along. And that's really it. You don't need to apply any downwards pressure to it. It's just, as long as it keeps moving forward, the wheels will turn, which is pretty cool. This is something really different, which I personally do really appreciate that Lego is trying. I appreciate the fact that they're trying something new. Now, this is actually not the first time that Lego has done 3D printing like this before. They have done a number of other different pieces, like a pogo stick and also a replica of their wooden duck from 90 years ago when they first started the company. But those are all small quantity pieces that are extremely hard to find, and if they were in a set, it was a Lego house exclusive for a very brief period of time. This is the first time that they have ever taken this to such a large scale, and I personally commend them for doing something different. I don't know if they were going for something that was kind of in line with G scale. Obviously, the minifigure is too small and the train is too big for it to be G scale, but Brickset has actually found a way to make rails for this, which I'll put a picture of on the screen. I think those are really cool, and it is a really neat way to integrate this new specialized piece into your layouts. But that begs the question of, why is Lego making such a specialized piece? Personally, I think it's a way that they are going to try out different things and see if it's feasible. They could have just brick built this teeny tiny train here and then kind of called it a day, but they're trying something different. I do commend them for that. I'm very curious to see if they will reuse this piece. That's probably my biggest question, along with if they're going to make trains like this. Are they going to make other things to connect to it, like maybe a tender or a flat car or even a caboose or something like that, like maybe in next year's Winter Village set, maybe we'll get a new piece of the train. Maybe that's another collectible factor here. So I am pretty curious to see what they're going to do with that. A lot of people are concerned that 3D printing is going to replace the injection molded pieces, which is how Lego mainly makes their pieces. They use ABS plastic and they injection mold everything. I don't personally think that they are going to change this. I think they are going to keep the normal pieces in system. I don't think they're going to go anywhere with that. Obviously, I don't have any insider information. I don't work for Lego, and so take everything you say with a grain of salt. But this is just my own opinion and my own speculation, but I don't think the ABS plastic is going anywhere. Personally, how I see this being used is every once in a while in a set, pretty much just like this, they're going to go ahead and make something to go along with it for a 3D print. Now, next year, in a random vehicle set, we might get a car, and then you get a 3D printed car. That could be pretty cool. Or maybe next year in the Winter Village set, maybe you get another piece of this train here. I know a lot of people are against 3D printing in Lego sets. It feels like they're cheaping out, and I do understand that, and I do almost agree with that in a certain way, because the ABS plastic has a certain feel to it after it goes through the process here. And so 3D printing just does not feel like that, unfortunately. And so it definitely feels like a cheaper piece. But again, it does move and it does have all of the different connection points, which I don't think would have been possible had they built something at this scale. They wouldn't have been able to add all of the moving features in here, like the wheels, the coupling rods, and also the smokestack itself. Now, I am pretty intrigued by Brickset's article here, which again, I showed you the picture from earlier of the micro scale railway that they had started. Maybe that means we'll get more of those 1x2 and 1x8 rail pieces in the future, like different sizes and maybe even corners and other things like that. But Brickset seems to think that there could be a print on demand service in the future. So not only could you order more of these pieces here if you wanted a bunch of these trains for a model train store or something, you could go ahead and request a certain print of something. I'm assuming they wouldn't be able to print everything, but if you wanted to print a flat car maybe or some generic thing like that for this train here, I think that could be pretty cool. So personally, I think the 3D printing avenue is pretty cool. This is definitely a way that LEGO could go if they want to experiment with pieces just like this train here that would otherwise be impossible with normal pieces and normal manufacturing designs. I personally think that this is not going to replace ABS plastic. It's not going anywhere. This is just, I think, a novelty item that will appear in a couple of sets throughout the year. And there are rumors next year of us getting a smart brick and other things like that. So I think LEGO is trying to diversify their portfolio here to get into the smart bricks and other tech like that, while also expanding into 3D printing and expanding into these other forms as well. And so going forward, I'm very curious to see how these pieces will hold up here. There has been tests online of people stepping on them and they seem to be totally fine and not break in any way, shape, or form, which is good to see that these can withstand higher pressures here. But overall, I'm not really sure how this is going to go. A lot of people seem to be against this online. Personally, I'm a fan of it. I think it's cool and I think it's a nice novelty item to get in addition to sets, as long as it's not raising the cost of them, because 3D printing is typically a cheaper avenue of making things compared to ABS injection molding. And I'm also curious to see how they will mass produce these over time. Obviously, they have to make one for every single set here. I took the box out of the frame, but they have to make at least one of these for every single set. And I'm assuming they have to make a handful of extras in case some of the sets don't have them and then customer service needs to send them out. I don't know if this is ever going to show up on Pick-a-Brick. I think that would be a really cool thing to show up on there. I don't know how expensive it would be though. I can see this honestly somewhere around the $10 range, something like that. A lot of the cloth pieces that they sell are between $5 or $10, and some of them are even north of that, which is pretty crazy, but I could see this being such a specialized piece like those. And with it not being ABS plastic and instead being something else, like the cloth capes and then this 3D printed piece here, I could easily see this being a $5 to $10 item on Pick-a-Brick, assuming it ever shows up there at all. Right now, the standard pieces are completely unavailable, so even if this does show up on the standard portion of Pick-a-Brick, at least in the United States and Canada, I don't know if we would even see that, but I'm sure other regions around the world would also see it and then post about it online. And so with that, that is all I have left to say. I want to turn the conversation over to you. I want to ask you what your thoughts on the 3D printed piece are, if you think this is the future of LEGO. Personally, I don't think it is the entire future of LEGO, but I do think that this is an avenue that they could go down, specifically for design purposes, especially behind the scenes when they're designing sets. I think this could be a really cool thing. I'm not sure if they already do this, but it would be pretty neat for them to have specific designs of sets that are 3D printed, and then they can go ahead and scale them out as needed. I think that'd be pretty cool. And then also every once in a while, you get something like this in a retail set, just like the Holiday Express train here. Let me know your thoughts down below and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. And I can't wait to see you next time. Bye for now.